I'm excited to have my friend and colleague, Dr. Mark Forst, to share some key insights with us on how genes work. And he developed a product called TolerAid. He's been a chiropractor for over 40 years, and he's teaches both naturopathic and chiropractic students, and has been a huge author and educator. And Mark, we were talking off camera just a little bit about that you use about 150 bottles a month, and that you can't see why other people don't understand how important it is. And then you started talking about genes and enzymes, and I want you to go back to that because that was a picture that I missed. And we've talked about this before, so I know other people have missed it too.
So what I find is that commonly docs don't really connect to what the deeper use is of TolerAid. They tend to think it's useful for people that are, have intolerance to perfumes, or they get triggered by, air fresheners and things like that, but they don't really take it to what's deeper than that. Okay. So at a real fundamental level, TolerAid was designed to support the methylation cycle and the transsulfuration pathways in a way that's softer and more complete, comprehensive. And when you do that, what you're doing is you're allowing the cell to read the genes in the nucleus. Every gene is a recipe for an enzyme, okay, to run the cell, to make things happen. And what TolerAid does is it supports the methylation cycle, and the methylation cycle's purpose is to read the recipe of every gene and make every enzyme that runs everything in the cell to make things happen.
And if we don't have enough enzymes, we're not going to have energy sufficient to repair cells.
Yeah. I mean, everything that happens in a cell, everything that happens in tissues in the body is dependent on being able to translate genes to enzymes.
Okay.
So if that system is not efficient, if it's not functioning properly, it's going to have effects throughout the whole body. And so it's one of the most fundamental things you can do is support that works properly.
Awesome. Well, again, what I really like, if you don't have life, you don't have energy, cells can't repair. If cells can't repair, they don't work. And if they don't work, then you give them all kinds of nutrients and drugs to push them to work, and it only works for so long. So now you learned all this from, or one of the people that stimulated your interest the most was a gal by the name of Dr. Claudia Miller. Tell me that story.
Yeah, so Claudia Miller is an MD. She's an immunologist, and she has multiple chemical sensitivity. So she got really passionate about finding solutions for it and sharing what she'd learned. So she's written a number of, books on the reference books on the topic, and she's also designed a questionnaire called an environmental sensitivity inventory, and it screens people for chemical intolerance. And I use it for every single patient that comes in. It doesn't matter what they're coming in for, they get screened for it. Because what Claudia Miller found, she did a study where she screened people coming into family practice settings, general practice settings, and found that 20% of people coming into that particular setting were there because of their chemical intolerance in large part. And what's interesting about that group, that cohort, is that they tended to have multiple comorbidities that were typically not differentially diagnosed, and then unresponsive to care. So that's the group, and we all see that group.
We all see that.
Portions. And then because of the type of practice that I have, it's even higher than 20%. Yeah.
Yeah. So so what would be the score? 20%, 30%, 40% that they would?
So if you get into 30, I have to start thinking that's an important component. And then I get hit 40, I know that it's really key. And then there's a lab value I always look for.
Okay.
And it's just on a blood count, on a CBC. You look at the MCV value.
Okay.
Normal goes up to 99 because it's so common for people to be undermethylated. But really, if they hit 90 or more, their system is undermethylated. The methylation cycle is not functioning properly. That's a fantastic tell without having to do a lot of sophisticated and expensive testing. You
Well,
know,
that's a beautiful way because it's virtually it's so cheap. So that's great. What about when things aren't working? Any little tips that you can throw in?
that people aren't responsive to the
People aren't
TolerAid.
responsive because nothing. We both know nothing works for everybody.
There's no panacea, right? Um, so the deal is that B12 is not in TolerAid because I prefer to give B12 sublingually. And so it's not in the formula because it's capsule. So
Okay.
often people need B12 added. And I love B12 2000 because it's hydroxycobalamin. I give it to them specifically because it's not methylcobalamin. Giving the hydroxycobalamin will tend to push methylcobalamin. You know, it's not as efficient in some people because of their genetics, but you're still going to push the expression. And it's softer than giving them too much methylfolate, which causes methyl trapping. So, um,
And what
so
about dosage? What do you use for dosage?
usually one a day is fine. Yeah, one B12 2000 a day usually
No, I
works.
meant about the
Oh, for the
tolerate.
TolerAid? So
Yeah.
it depends on the person. So I've had people with real severe symptoms that I would give them 2 capsules three times a day. The study that I did on wine intolerance that resulted in 85% of people having complete remission of their wine intolerance at 6 weeks, and that was 2 capsules twice a day. Most people, I give 2 capsules a day for 6 months, and then typically after 6 months, they only need one a day to continue to get the benefits.
Well, Dr. Forrest, this has been great. We're definitely going to have you back. We have attached, I've got an article that's attached that you wrote on chemical intolerance, and we'll give some more information about TolerAid, but I think it's something that everybody should consider with their patients and start looking at that questionnaire and certainly at a CBC. So thank you very much. We appreciate you.